And what affects how young people save and manage money? So, for example, parental influence. Because, I mean, on my side, probably, it wasn't even my parents actually that told me about budgeting. It was one of my friends who was older, and he suggested the 50, 25, 25% of like splitting your income to me. So yeah, what affects how young people save?
Yeah, so definitely financial education is a big thing. To what young person has learned about money growing up. So yeah, parental influence could be huge. When a kid is a child, you said that a parent is the first teacher that you have.
Mm,
That doesn't necessarily start just because they go to schools. A lot of things that schools don't teach. And
mm,
financial education is one of those things. Growing up, in my personal experience about money and finance, I didn't know a lot about it because my mum and dad just kind of generally dealt with it and they didn't share a whole ton.
mm,
Kind of fine, but then growing up when I went to university, I didn't manage my money properly and I left with quite a bit of student debt. And when I struggled to, when I moved into my own place, manage all the bills, I didn't know what
mm,
I should pay or what I shouldn't pay. And me personally, I ended up in quite a bad financial situation because of that.
mm.
Having more of an education around it means you can plan these things going forward. You can avoid debt, you can avoid arrears, and avoid a lot of stress and mental anxiety from it.
Mm,
So it's important to get that education in as soon as you can. I think the last study I looked at said about the age of 11 is a really good time to talk about money.
mhm.
And it's just about letting kids know about what cost things, well, we have a limit. So stuff like that is really important. But you've also got the other side of it where savings and investment and pensions just simply are not fun and they're
Mm.
not easy to understand.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So when you talk to a young person, oh, well, what are you doing with your money? Oh, well, I'm going to cinema with friends, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Some fairly basic things. You go, well, have you considered putting maybe some of that aside in savings and maybe don't go see the movie, maybe just have something to eat with friends?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to have fun because you do when you're young. You want to have fun with your
Mm.
money, and saving is not a fun thing. But likewise, you're also missing out on something that's actually incredibly rewarding watching your money grow
Yeah.
and setting yourself goals. So you say, like, for example, if I can save £1,000, I can go on holiday with half of that
Mm.
and I'll keep half. So
Yeah.
setting yourself goals helps get there too. Um, but it can be frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, no. Very true. So if I have decided that I would like to start saving, and I want to be more financially responsible, how can I, as a young person, try to build financial independence?
Okay. The first thing you do is sort of learn a bit more about money.
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly basic maths is quite simple to get your head around for us,
Mm.
but things like understanding how credit cards work, how overdrafts work, and interest rates work can mean that you can save a lot of money by going, okay, well, I'll save rather than get credit
Mm.
because if you save up for something, although you don't have the item you want immediately, you're gonna not pay as much for it in the long term, and that helps you. And so there's a lot of sources for things like that. You can speak to a money buddy. We can help with budgeting and guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of online tools such as Money Saving Expert and Money and Pension Service to give you a good understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can also do things like start having savings, put a little bit aside. If you've done your budget and you've looked at your income expenditure, you know what you've got left. I'd usually say put 10% of that aside, or maybe save the odd bit of change here and there. Maybe when you look at your bank statement, if you've got £30 and 30 pence, put 30 pence in a savings account, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that helps build resilience.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to think you get a car when you're 18, then you have your first MOT and you need to
Yeah.
replace all the
Yeah.
tyres, and that's 300 quid.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
having had those savings makes that affordable and easier to manage,
Mm-hmm.
which does lean into having things like self-control is a big part of it too. I mean, even as an adult, I would love to take my wage and just like, yeah, go for
Yeah.
it, go fun.
Yeah.
I'll go buy myself a new computer, etc. But you've got to sort of have that self-control
Yeah.
and start building those good habits with it.
Yeah. And I think as well, something like self-control, something, if as a child, a lot of people are given pocket money. I think pocket money is a really kind of good way of being given a small amount. And as you said, you've mentioned quite a lot the word habits. And
Yeah,
I was actually reading a book all about habits,
yeah,
and how almost kind of the way I like to think of it is like, if you're building a wall, and obviously a wall is made out of really small bricks. So just by building these really small habits and like kind of building up these bricks, then you'll have a huge wall, and that's something, as you said, that's quite satisfying and that you can be quite proud of as well.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that is really very important.
Yeah.
So my last question for you now is, please can you give your best money saving tips for young adults? So you've mentioned exercising self-control, and maybe a little bit about starting a saving for like emergency funds or retirement, all of that.
Okay. So yeah, well, really everything starts with doing a good budget.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sources online. Like I said, you can speak to a money buddy. We're all over the place in Leeds. Just check out our website. You'll see where we're at. We can help you with a budget. We can help you understand what your priorities are, what they're not, because it's not always obvious what's a priority and isn't. As far as saving tips go, plan ahead. One of the things I like to tell people is if you've got direct debits and bills to pay, make sure they go out just after you receive your income. That way, for the rest of the month, you know those bills are covered. What you've got left is yours.
Yeah.
You alleviate a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And you can go, well, if that's what I've got left, 10% of that, let's pop it in savings. Being realistic about how much you save can help too, because if you go, oh, half of it in savings, great, you'll have a lot of savings built up really quickly. But if it's not realistic, what you end up doing is going, it's the end of the month, I've not got any money, I'll pull a bit back. Pull a bit back, and you'll just use those savings anyway. So be realistic. Give yourself limits on spending as well. So for example, if you need new clothes, have a look at your budget. How much can I spend on it? Let's be realistic here and try and be a bit savvy and shop around. Avoid credit if you can. Credit should be for emergencies, really, or if it's just something you're never going to afford yourself, like a car. It could take years to save up for a car because it's just so expensive. So credit's a reasonable access point for that. But something like new clothing or a piece of new tech, just start saving for it, because otherwise you're going to spend way over the odds on interest. I'd also say having multiple bank accounts helps. People don't always look at it, but if you have one account for your bills, one account for your disposable income, what you've got left after your bills, and one for saving, it's a lot easier to manage your money.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking, well, this bill goes out on that date and then I've got that one coming out, so what does that leave me today? Alleviate that, get rid of that anxiety, and also look at your banking apps and your online banking, because the more you get used to doing it, you're building those good habits, and it'll help you avoid those little spends that build up. And I'm guilty of this every now and then. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go get a Costa coffee. There we go. But that builds up quite a lot. You do that a couple of times a week. Before you know it, you're spending £80 a month on coffee.
Yeah.
It's a really simple example, and it might not be relevant to everybody. But if you're in that situation, let's just have a quick look at my app. Okay, not that much left this week. I'll give it a miss. You're going to start saving a bit more as well.
I think being honest with yourself, isn't it? If you don't want to look at your spending, then you're not being very open, and you're not really gonna be able to move forward or improve if you're not accepting how you spend your money.
I mean, it links a lot into mental health. Obviously, money buddies, we speak to a lot of people. We're in incredibly high demand at the moment, and if there's a direct link between people who have a lot of money anxiety and people who don't look at the bank account to see what they've got, because I don't want to look, because I don't want to know, because I'm going to freak out. Well, if you made that habit of looking regularly, you'll be able to plan ahead. You'll be able to recognize when you can spend and you can't spend, and it will give you more financial peace and more financial well-being by doing so.
Yeah, and actually that was something I was going to mention before when we were talking a little bit about cost of living and all of that. A huge part of this, I can imagine, is mental health, and how it really will have a huge impact on mental health. And especially from a young age, if, for example, you go straight from 18 into working, or you go to uni and you have this money and you don't necessarily know what to do with it, it can be incredibly stressful. And then if that impacts your mental health, to then think about budgeting and saving, it can get confusing. It can get really quite a lot to think about when or overwhelming, I suppose is the word.
Yeah. I mean, it can cause a lot of stress.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you've got money.
Yeah.
But also all of a sudden you've got bills, and there's not many places that will sit down and go through and explain to you how to use that money to make sure you do cover everything you need to, and what you've got left, and how to use that to its best effect. We do that at Money Buddies. It's absolutely something we'll do if someone wants to come and talk to us about it. But again, it goes back to a lack of financial education in schools, and it's something that parents and family members or friends do kind of plug that gap, but they also might not have the best habits going, because historically, financial education doesn't really exist a whole lot. So you do need to be careful. You do need to sort of put some time aside to understand these things and learn them, and make the most of what you've got.
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect. Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions for you, but is there anything you'd like to add onto the end of that?
No, just if you're worried about money, if you want some help and support, please do come to us. If you have a look at our website, there's a list of loads of different locations where we're at each week, and we can help you budget. We can help you with debts. If you've fallen behind with priority bills or in arrears, we can help fix those situations. And the sooner you seek that help, the easier that is for us to help as well.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very, very much, Lewis. I have really, really enjoyed speaking to you. And honestly, actually, that whole conversation with me, you has inspired me a little bit to think about my bank account, because I was I opened a savings account recently. But I'm really trying not to fall into the bad habit of taking money out of my savings. But I have done it quite a few times, and it gets confusing as well, because I'll be like, I've taken this much out, I need to pay this much when I get my wage, and it is stressful.
Start small. Build those good habits and pop little bits of change in there every now and then, because it makes a big difference.
Yes. Well, thank you very, very much for being on Fever FM today.